conservation and where that's set up. Resources, that's one of the things that I'm working on right now. We're creating mountains of garbage right now, and there are ways that we can make that, and certainly opportunities for people in this room to look at solutions for that. I don't think we've even touched the solutions that might be possible to do those things. Just as a couple examples, I brought together that's the Center of Excellence for the Gold Bar water treatment plant. It's a biological nutrient removal technology that's being pioneered by both our company and the city of Edmonton, where you're using biological methods rather than chemical methods to take the nitrates out of your city water. Or the other one here is something that I went with a client for. It's a composter. It takes the green waste from the municipal waste stream, which is about 30% of what's out there, and it composts it. It takes about 19 days or so to go through that, and at the end of the day you take off the methane, and you can either turn it into ethanol and run a fleet with it, or take the methane and put it into a generator, sell it back to the grid as green power. And at the end you also get some compost that you can use either on a large or small scale. This was one in Germany. We went with a client that was looking at buying that patent for the system, and came to Stantec and said, can you guys build us these type of facilities if we collect some money and we want to build these in a number of different places? So we looked out there and said, yeah, sure. There's nothing from a building perspective. There isn't that much that's neat, that kind of that difficult for us to deal with. It is something, though, that we did discover while we were there. It's not something of just dumping everything in and it'll compost itself. You do have to, there's some mixture that you have to work with. And the guy that's going to do that, we started referring to as the brewmeister, the person that's going to put the right things in the right places. As it turns out, at Christmas time, when there's lots of orange peels, that changes the mix as you go through. So interesting stuff that you find out as you go and do these type of things. On the environmental side, we really look at the stewardship. What can we do on a natural basis? This is a picture at the biosphere in Montreal that was put up. What you see down at the bottom there through the structure is a natural way of treating stormwater. So it goes through different cells, and the plants will take out all the particulates and that sort of thing. Stantec also gets involved quite a bit in the field in terms of remediation studies and those type of things to make sure that our design is based on evidence and not just on somebody's idea that he had over the weekend. Transportation, again, greening your commute. We're seeing much more now when you look at cities, different places, that getting to and from work, just trying to drive and doing those type of things takes a phenomenal amount. So there's a lot of thought now about what the city calls smart growth, smart decisions, and those type of things. So again, type of things we can do. Energy, we do a lot of support in terms of different energy types, different scales, building scale. That's the big mirrors, that's the Sterling plant in California. That's a huge solar plant that sets up. We do a lot of wind farms as it goes through and those type of things. I always have to mention, in Alberta, we're trying to set up a laser fusion program. This is the idea of it's the fuel of the future. There's a lot of things that will have to be put in there, but the idea is that if we can get that the deuterium ignited, it can replace the coal and come up with an energy source that is carbon neutral or carbon free, and we could still use all the existing electrical system that we already have in there. We walk the talk. Stantec is not just here to do it. We do a number of things that we do ourselves that go beyond that. As you can see, a lot of the things that you can you can look at a forest, you can look at the city. There's a lot of similarities to it. We're just not as efficient as a forest is in terms of doing it, and that's where we're always trying to improve to set those type of things up. So when I started thinking about what does Stantec and Cleantech really work together, I think what we really bring to it is a knowledge. It's that communal knowledge, that community of practice, that community that brings in a number of projects, different things that we can bring together in terms of doing that. And with that, thank you very much for your attention.
Questions? At the beginning, you started with the streets. What do you do for the city of Edmonton about the streets here? About 200,000 to 300,000 potholes. You know, the taxes going up, and they're telling us it's for the streets, but I can't see it. And sometimes there are roads, they're at least 2 to 3 feet deep.
Well, a couple things we can look at. Certainly, one of the technologies that Stantec does own, it's a pavement management system. You might have seen it running around. It has a little echo, and it looks at how where the potholes are likely to be, how to set that up. From a sustainability, what we've really been trying to do is to say, let's densify the city so you don't have to run the streets as long and as far, so your maintenance and your setup is there. There are technologies to make the streets and the roads run longer. The stuff we did on Anthony Henday, where they've used concrete as opposed to the pavement that are done there. So there are solutions. Some of them are economical, or some of them are not done because of the economy or the cost of them, sort of thing. And what we find in a lot of cases, and this is not just streets, it's a lot of things, people look at it from a first cost basis. They do not look at it on a life cycle basis. Nobody really cares if this road's going to cost, it's going to last 5 years or 20 years, as long as the cost is cheap here, and by the time you have to replace it, it's somebody else's problem. So from Stantec's perspective, there are some solutions, there are still some challenges, but that would be the type of things we would look at from a consultant perspective.
Any other questions? When you start design, the client comes to you and says, building here. Do you start with the highest level LEED standard building you can go for, and then let the client bring you down if necessary? You always go to we're going to go for a gold LEED building?
We don't necessarily start with LEED. I mean, LEED is one tool that you can use. I think what we start up is with the strategic planning, the conceptual planning, and see what is to their best advantage. Certainly, we will start to promote LEED. We will start to promote other sustainability things that can go in, but it does very much depend on the client, and it does require a client that is, I don't want to say enlightened, but somebody that's committed to this process. It's not an easy one. It's not, business as usual is always the easiest thing. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do it. But certainly what you want to do is look at the opportunities that you have within that project. So if LEED Platinum makes sense, certainly. If you want to go beyond LEED and you want to go to a living building challenge, you could do that as well, and we have people that are capable of doing that. If you just want to do something that's a little bit better than what it was before, that's the other way to do it. So I wouldn't get hung up just on LEED. It's a good system. I'm the chair of the Alberta chapter for the Canada Green Building Council, which does a lot of the LEED, but don't let it blind you that in itself is enough. There's lots of other things that you can do, and there's lots of options. My objective is to get the best solution at the end of the day, as sustainable as possible, as economical as possible, and socially responsible. Those are the three things that you want to balance as you go through.